Hello, everybody, and a big warm welcome to our live lounge, which is all about accommodation at the University of Lincoln. My name's Harriet, and I'll be your host this evening, and I'm joined by the lovely Sophie from Accommodation.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm hoping to answer all your questions about the accommodation.
And exactly that. So just as Sophie has said, we will be answering all your questions this evening. So any questions that pop into your head, please feel free to drop them in the comments and the chat, and we will try our very best to get through all of them. Now, to kick things off, Sophie, I wondered if you could just tell us what accommodation we have at the University of Lincoln.
Of course. So the University of Lincoln has 5 residences. Some are based on campus and some are based off campus. And they are St. Mark's, Valentine Court, Lincoln Courts, Signet Wharf, and 179 High Street.
That's great. And I think what we'll do is we'll start with our off-campus accommodations. So can you tell me a little bit about St. Mark's?
So St. Mark's is actually our newest accommodation. It was built in 2021, so it's only a couple of years old, and it's also our biggest. So it's about 10 blocks and holds about 1,300 rooms. It's also got really nice outdoor communal areas for when the sun eventually shows itself, and it's also situated right next to a retail park. So think your Starbucks, your Home Sense, and your Home Bargains are right next door as well.
Yeah, it is a fantastic location. And one of the great things about accommodation at Lincoln is that everything is within walking distance. So whether you're on campus or you're wanting to get to town or even our transport links, it's all within 10 to 15 minutes. So super, super great location and really easy to get around. Now on screen, you will be able to see some great videos which are showing you the interior of our accommodations as Sophie is explaining them. So I think next we'll go on to Valentine Court.
So Valentine Court, I'd probably say, is our furthest accommodation that's off campus. But again, probably about 10-minute walk to campus, I'd say, depending on your pace. Now, when you think of a hall of residence, you've probably got quite a clear image in mind. You go through your apartment door, you got your rooms either side, and then your kitchen and communal area is at the end. Valentine Court's more like a townhouse. So your communal area and your kitchen is on the ground floor, and then the bedrooms work their way up the stairs. It's also the only accommodation that does have limited parking permits available. So if you're thinking of bringing your car to the university, such as maybe you need it for placement, you're studying nursing, midwifery, something like that, Valentine Court is a good one to consider. It also has a little bit of a longer contract length at 46 weeks that hopefully should cover those placements as well.
That's great, thank you. And then you mentioned that we've got on-campus accommodation as well. So could you explain those in a little bit more detail?
Of course, I'm going to start with Lincoln Courts. So it's a little bit older than the other accommodations, and it's built a little bit differently as well. So it's the only accommodation that has 4 room types available. The other 2 I've just mentioned and the others that follow all have an ensuite and a 3/4 bed as standard, whereas Lincoln Courts is a single bed and has the option of an ensuite or a shared bathroom.
Yeah, and I really love Lincoln Courts just because there are quite a few blocks actually, so 17 blocks in total, and it is located right in the heart of campus. So it has a really nice community feel, and there's always lots going around, lots of people, and it feels quite homely, I think, just with the style of housing as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, a really great choice. Signet Wharf, let's try that one next.
So Signet Wharf is right in the heart of the campus. So it's situated right next to, well, I say right next to, just around the corner from the GP and the Student Wellbeing Centre as well. It's situated right next to the Student Union's The Swan pub as well. So you can get a quick bite to eat, maybe on your way to class. And it's I keep saying situated, it's located on pretty much on the Brayford waterfront as well. So it's got some quite nice views from some of the higher apartments.
And our final site, 179 High Street.
As the name does suggest, it does actually back onto Lincoln's High Street. So if you're thinking, I really want to be in the city centre, but also classed as an on-campus accommodation, which is right next to the library, the Students' Union, the engine shed, 179 High Street's a really good one to go and have a look at because you kind of get the best of both worlds with that accommodation.
That's great. Thank you. And I think you've touched on some of the great things about living with us. So what else is included? So the fact that obviously the location is really easy to get to, super close to campus and the city. And also the fact that most of our rooms are en suite as well, which I know is a really big bonus for a lot of our students. I just wondered if you could tell everyone a few of the other benefits that we have.
So some of the benefits that I think are absolutely fabulous with our accommodation is that we do have all your utility bills and your Wi-Fi included within your accommodation fee. We do have 24/7 security as well, which for me personally, that just gives really good peace of mind. So I'm an administrator myself. I do go home at 5:30, but security are there 24/7 to let students in and just help in any way they can. We also have 24/7 maintenance as well. It is a home from home. Your light bulb's going to go out and stuff like that. So it's nice to know that they're on hand. We also have contents insurance of up to £5,000. And we also have a gym membership included within the accommodation fees as well.
Yeah, and the gym membership is really exciting. So this is something which is quite new, actually. So we have an on-campus sports centre, and as a student booking to stay in university managed accommodation, you do get access to that sports centre for the duration of your contract length. So that includes access to the gym and a weekly timetable of classes, and that changes all the time. So there's always some really exciting and fun classes. A great way to meet other students and a great way to stay fit and healthy. And Sophie, one of the things that you mentioned there, which I think is so, so important, is that we really want Lincoln to feel like a home from home for you. So we will do everything we can to make sure that you are really happy and supported when you arrive. I think that's a really big focus across the whole university. Now, if we start thinking about actually applying for accommodation and choosing accommodation, it might seem a little bit overwhelming on where to start. We have so many choices to pick from. I just wondered if you could talk through the actual process of applying for accommodation.
Of course. Now, I always say probably the hardest bit is picking your development, like you said. So I tend to say the application split into two sections. So first things first, you will need to have made the University of Lincoln your firm choice on your UCAS before you can apply for accommodation. Once you've done this, we normally say give it a couple of working days for that information to filter through, and our accommodation team will send you an email saying that you can book accommodation. You will need your 8-digit student ID number to create an account. Then you move to the step 1, which is picking that development. Now, we do ask that you put down 4 choices in preference order. So if you really like St. Mark's, for example, pop that as your number 1, and so on and so forth. Then you click that submit button, and that's step 1 done. Give my team a couple of working days just to process that. And then step 2 is accepting your room offer. So we will send you an email saying, this is your accommodation. If you're happy with it, this is where we'll ask you to set up your payment plan. Now, we don't ask for a deposit and we don't ask for a down payment. We're simply asking you to set it up now so you're not having to worry about it at a later date. There's also a free text box in this section. So if you have friends that are also coming to the University of Lincoln, you can pop their names in this section to ask to live with them in your development. Once you have done this and signed that contract at the end, you have secured your accommodation. Then think towards the end of summer. This is when we will get back in touch with you to let you know your room details and your arrival information as well.
That's great. Thank you. And lots of information there. Don't worry about remembering it all. We make sure that you will get everything you need when you need it. But also the University of Lincoln website is fully updated and full of loads of helpful information, quick links and step by step. So you can find it all on there as and when you need to. Now, the final thing I'd love to ask you is just about the wider sort of support that's available. So whether it's at the application stage or actually when students start arriving to Lincoln and moving into their new rooms.
Of course. So here at the University of Lincoln, we do have a very big, wide support network. From your reception team in each of your accommodation developments. But then we also have our student support and advice team, and they have an array of teams within that department. So they have the success and engagement team, for example, and they can help with students with an array of different inquiries. We also have our student wellbeing team, and they can help students with maybe any kind of special requirements that they might need for their accommodation, or maybe just having a bit of a query or just a little bit of extra support. That's what these guys are here for, and they're available to all students. And we also have our amazing Res Life team as well. And these guys are located in the back of Signet Wharf Block B, and they're there for a peer-to-peer talk phone calls for students, and they also have their Res Life Lounge as well.
That's great. Thank you. So as Sophie said, a huge amount of support while you're actually going through the journey of joining us at Lincoln, and then once you've arrived as well. So the team is here for you as and when you need us. Now, just a reminder, we are taking questions. So if anything pops into your head or you'd like to find out a little bit more about what we're talking about, please do feel free to pop those in the comments. Now, Sophie, you just mentioned the Res Life team, and I'm really excited because we're actually joined by Maggie, who's one of our Res Life assistants. So I'm going to invite Maggie to join us.
Hello, I'll give you my microphone.
Thank you very much.
So Maggie, I know Sophie did touch on it very slightly, but could you just tell everyone what Res Life actually is?
Okay, so it'll be quite brief, but we're mainly here to just offer any support and guidance that you might need while you're staying in the university halls. So like you said, we're a peer-to-peer service. This means that we're all students. And it means that we can offer some more personal advice because we've been there fairly recently. We've just moved into halls. We've just started university, so we get it. And then we are also there to host these events that you mentioned. We do this from our lounge near Signet Wharf, and they are free for everyone who's living in university accommodation. And you can contact us by email or on the phone. I think that's it.
Yeah. And you mentioned events, which I think our audience will be really excited about. Could you share what those events might be? What kind of stuff can students expect?
So every weekday during term time and most Saturdays as well, we are open from 6 to 10, and we do loads of events in the lounge. So this is obviously near Signet Wharf. These are just kind of casual events, so we do craft nights and movie nights and games nights and stuff like that. But then we also do more we do bigger events. So we'll do walks around the city, and these are really good for when you first move here because we get a lot of new people. It's really good to make friends. And we also do lots of stuff for cultural events. So we have events going on over Christmas. We did Diwali and Holi last year as well. So there's really something for everyone. And it's so beneficial at the start of the year. When you're moving in with your new flatmates and stuff like that, it might be quite hard to click with them at first, but it's sort of a place where you can go if you don't want to go clubbing all the time and stuff like that. You can go here, get to know your flatmates and get to know new people as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And as you said, just such an amazing way to meet students who are living in all our different accommodations, as opposed to just those who are in the same accommodation as you. So yeah, that's really amazing. And if a student was maybe coming to visit us at an upcoming open day or an offer holder day, so we do have our open day on Saturday for anyone who would like to attend and hasn't already registered. But if a student was coming onto campus soon, are they able to see the Res Life Lounge?
Yeah, so we are open during open days. You can pop in. We have a pool table in there and stuff. You can come and chill out and have a break and some water or something like that, or a hot drink if you'd like, if it's a bit chilly. Or you can just come have a quick look around, ask us what we do, and then head off on your way. But yeah, you can definitely come and have a look around. We're open.
That's great. And yes, definitely make the most of those refreshments because an open day can be very busy and full of lots of excitement. So get the rest whilst you can. And Maggie, you live with us at the minute, don't you? Would you be happy just to maybe share about your experience and what that's been like?
Yeah. So I've really enjoyed living with university accommodation, and I've lived in St. Mark's for 3 years. So you can live in accommodation your whole stay during university. It's great. St. Mark's, although it's off campus, it's really 2 minutes away. It's really good. The location's amazing. The rooms feel huge as well. So coming from home, my room is like a little box room. coming into university, it feels massive, and the kitchen feels really big as well. So it's really lovely, really close to campus, and really dangerous how close it is to Starbucks.
That's great, thank you. And I'm very pleased to hear that you're enjoying your stay there. Now, we have got some questions coming in, which is brilliant. Please do keep them coming. The first one I'm actually going to ask you, Sophie, if that's okay.
Thank you.
So we've got a question from Leanne, and Leanne has asked if there are laundrettes. Could you just explain a little bit more detail about what that looks like for us?
Of course. So all of our accommodations do have laundrettes, depending on the size of the accommodation. So something like St. Mark's, I mentioned earlier, being our biggest accommodation, does actually have two, but the majority of them have one big laundrette. So you go in, there's many washing machines, many dryers, and it's all run by a third-party company called Circuit Laundry. So they do have an app that you can download, and this app is, I am flabbergasted how it works, but it actually tells you when the machines are in use, when they're free. And I am under the impression, students tell me, that it actually tells you when your laundry is about to be finished as well. So that's really handy to have. So all of our accommodations do have these laundrettes, with the exception of Valentine Court. This is the only accommodation that does have washing machines actually in the apartments themselves. As I mentioned earlier, we do get quite a few students that use Valentine Court if they're studying midwifery, because they need those car permits for placement. And the washing machines are great in Valentine because they often have scrubs and stuff like that, where they might need to wash those uniforms on a daily basis.
That's great, thank you. And I'm going to stick with you for the questions, if that's okay. So we've had a few questions come through on Instagram. And the first one is, when's the latest that you can actually apply for accommodation if it's for September 2025?
I won't actually say there's a time limit as such. So we do have a guarantee in place that we do guarantee you a room if you are a new undergraduate student and you apply before the 1st of August 2025. Now, if you do have a particular accommodation in mind and you know for definite that you are coming to the University of Lincoln, we do suggest it might be a good idea to apply sooner rather than later, just to avoid disappointment of losing your favorite accommodation. But there's not really a deadline as such, because we have such a big portfolio of rooms.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've mentioned this already, but in case we haven't, we are open to apply for accommodation now. So as Sophie explained at the start, as soon as the university has been made your firm choice on UCAS, once you've allowed 24 hours for the system to update, you will get an email from accommodation with the option to book. And from that point, you can book accommodation whenever you're ready to do so. So yes, we have the guarantee until the 1st of August, but as soon as we are your firm choice on UCAS, you can apply. And the sooner you do so, in theory, the more accommodation that we would have available to choose from. But plenty of time to sort of make the right decision for you as well. Another question that we've had come through from Instagram is just around studio rooms and whether we have any of those available within our accommodation.
So we do have a limited amount of studios available in 179 High Street, but we do give them to our student wellbeing team. So if you are a student that maybe has a severe allergy where you might need a studio room, we do advise students to register with student wellbeing in the first instance, so then they can advise us. So we make sure we're allocating the right room for the right person.
That's great. And we've had another question actually come through about the parking. So clearly Valentine Court and parking is very popular. So this question's from Tanya, and she has asked what the accommodation parking options are. So we've obviously explained that these are Valentine Court only for permit parking, but I wonder if you can just explain a little bit more about how the permit parking works and how a student might apply for that parking, just so we've sort of covered it all off.
Of course. So once you have gone through that application process I mentioned earlier, so you put Valentine Court as your number one, and then you got an offer and have accepted it for Valentine Court, you have secured it. Then towards the end of summer, we will send all those that are going into Valentine Court an email saying that the car parking is now live. It's a very similar process to how you apply for accommodation. You log onto your booking portal, so do remember your password, you will need it at a later date, and there'll be an option for Valentine Court car parking. It will tell you the fee and how to set up your payment plan as well. Once you've done that and you've secured your parking, on arrivals or around that sort of time period, the reception team will issue you a parking permit pass, and you'll need to keep this in your car window. There is a barrier at Valentine Court, and we will add the access onto your key card for your room. I am under the impression, I do believe that's how we do it at Valentine, and that will be able to lift the barrier for you.
That's great, thank you. And hopefully that helps answer your question, Tanya. Now I am sticking with you, sorry, lots of questions tonight, which is brilliant. Now Jake has asked if we can just quickly run through sort of the price difference between accommodations. So as you said, Lincoln Courts is our most affordable, but if you could maybe just explain what those prices look like.
Of course. So as you just mentioned, Lincoln Courts is our budget-friendly accommodation. So this one starts from £99 a week. And then our more premium accommodations are Signet Wharf and 179 High Street, and they are £191 per week. Now, St Mark's is a little bit different because we have different contract lengths. So depending on the contract length depends on the weekly fee. But that ranges from £175 a week to £191 per week. And then Valentine Court is up to £186 a week.
That was a very good memory. I don't think I'd be able to remember all of those. And Maggie, I've actually got a question for you. So I just wondered, could you please explain how a student might go about booking onto an event or finding out about the different events that are available?
Yeah, so for Res
Live, yeah, sorry, yes, for Res Live.
So for our busier events, so maybe like the cultural ones and stuff like that, you would definitely need to book. And we put all of our information on Instagram, so that's Uni Lincoln Res Live. You give us a cheeky little follow, and that's always on our Instagram story. So there'll be a link on there to Eventbrite. And you can just book it. You just need like your email and a phone number and student ID and stuff, and then you're booked on and you're guaranteed a place. But most of the time you can just pop in. So if it's something like a movie night or a games night, then you can just come into the Res Life Lounge. You don't need to book or anything like that. And of course, everything's free. So
that's great. And we have had a question come through on Instagram about whether we can just explain in a little bit more detail how move-in day works. And I actually think this would be a great question for you to answer because you've obviously experienced it as a student, but also as a Res Life assistant.
Yes. So obviously you get all of your details and stuff by email, and you book a slot. And I think when I moved in, it was an hour. Mm-hmm. So you can park like at St Mark's, you park right next to your accommodation. It's so good. And you're given these massive trolley things, and you just put as much stuff as you possibly can onto there, chuck it up the lift, get everything into your room, and then you can move your car into like a nearby car park, and then go back, put everything away so it looks a bit organized. But yeah, it's a really like easy thing to do. Like you just have the little permit in the window and stuff like that. It's not a very stressful situation to move in for accommodation here. So, yeah.
That's great, thank you. And Sophie, I've got one more question for you. So when it comes to paying for accommodation, someone on Instagram has asked when they need to pay. They've also asked about a deposit and whether they need to pay a deposit.
So we don't ask for a deposit, and we don't ask for a down payment either. When you are accepting your room offer, so that's step 2 I mentioned earlier, we will ask you to set up your payment plan. Now, there's 2 options. There is one full payment, or the other option, which tends to be the most popular, is the 3 installments. And this usually lines up with the student finance maintenance loans as well. So for the students that are currently in residence at the moment, the first installment came out about October time. The second installment will be about January, and then the third installment will be about May. So that tends to be the most popular one, but we always say whichever one works for you guys, do select which one you're most comfortable with. But do remember, once you have submitted that, you can't change it. So please make sure it's the right one for you. But most importantly is we do not take a penny until after you have collected your keys.
Yeah, so for a lot of students, they will use their maintenance loan to support their accommodation payments, and our rent days, so our rent payments do not fall until after student finance has fallen into your bank account, which I think is often a big question for lots of people. So hopefully that helps. Now, I have had one more question for Maggie. So just off the back of talking about the events, someone has asked how necessary it is to have Instagram in order to find out about the events.
Yep. So we also send out these emails most weeks saying what's going to be on what day, and there'll also be the link to the Eventbrite on there. Or you can just go straight onto Eventbrite and log in and find us on there that way. But yeah, you don't need Instagram at all. If you don't have it, that's absolutely fine. Just keep checking your student email and stuff like that, and we'll tell you what's going on.
Brilliant. And another question for yourself, because I think you'll be brilliant at answering this. So how should I know what to bring with me? Do I bring everything? Do I bring nothing? What should students bring?
You're going to need less than you think you're going to need. Don't go crazy. You don't need all these like crazy cooking utensils. There's so many shops close by, and Lincoln's so walkable. So if you do forget something, then you don't need to stress. There's going to be a little shop somewhere. But I think on our Instagram, if you have that, then we do Q&As, and then our boss will ask us as students what we thought we've forgotten to bring or what you need to bring. So yeah, have a look out on there. I don't know if there's anywhere else. Is there anything on the website or?
Yeah, so the university will send out a lot of information sort of pre-arrival and pre-welcome week. And as part of that, there is a website, I believe. It might be a web page. We'll make sure you've got the right links. And on there, they really clearly break down exactly what's provided, exactly what you might want to bring, and then the things that we ask you not to bring, just for health and safety reasons. On that note, what would you say are the 3 things that you absolutely need to remember?
Bedding. Definitely remember bedding, like your duvet and pillows. You can even bring your ones from home. You don't need to buy new ones and stuff like that, really. What else do we definitely need? Oven tray. I forgot an oven tray. And that was all I was eating for first year was oven food. So it's a nightmare. For the last one, stuff for studying. You're gonna forget.
Very important.
Forget that one. Bring a pen or something.
That's great. And I think we always get coat hangers as well. Remember to bring coat hangers with you. That's great. I've got one last question for Sophie. And that is just whether there are any opportunities for people to actually view accommodation in the next month, in the next few months, sort of ahead and leading up to September.
So we do actually have an open day this Saturday, and all of our accommodation will be open to view. So just again for reference, that's St Mark's, Valentine Court, Lincoln Courts, Signet Wharf and 179 High Street. And we actually have what we call occupied show apartments, which is where the students that are actually inside those bedrooms live inside those bedrooms, which is really great because we can sort of tell you what it's like about the accommodation, but they can tell you, just as Maggie's done, what it's like to actually sleep in those beds, which is really great to get both sort of those first-hand experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said earlier, we do have an open day coming up this Saturday. So if you are free, book, register, come on down. We would love to meet you all and show you our fantastic campus. And now that is it from us this evening. So a big thank you for everyone who has attended. And just a reminder, we are now live to apply for accommodation. So as soon as you've made the University of Lincoln your firm choice on UCAS, you will be able to apply for accommodation. A big thank you to Maggie and Sophie for joining us this evening. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evenings, and we are here online on social media, email and phone if you have any further questions. Thank you. Good night.